In the last episode, we explored the dreams, the passions, the parts of ourselves that we often left behind. And we looked at how so many of us spend years trying to become someone else, more focused, more acceptable, more practical, more like the person we think we should be. And we explored the different possibilities that perhaps growth is not about becoming someone else. Perhaps it's about becoming more fully expressed as who you already are. But there is a challenge that very often appears once people begin reconnecting with those forgotten parts of themselves. It's what happens when there isn't just one passion? What happens when there isn't just one path? What happens when you're interested in many things? Because this is something I see all the time. The coach who is also an artist, the people with years of experience who did multiple trainings and have multiple interests, and just because they wanted to multiply the way that they could help others. And somewhere along the way, they're told the same thing. You need to choose one. You need to focus on just one thing. You need to find your niche. And for years, I thought that was the answer as well. But now I think a very different question needs to be asked. It's not what should I choose, but it's what connects all of it. And that's what we're exploring today. For most of my life, I thought being interested in so many different things was the problem. It was painting, photography, organizing retreats, nervous system work, subconscious reprogramming, content creation, community building. And on paper, they all look like very different paths. And for years, people in my life made me feel like I needed to choose. And people online, like I needed to figure out which one is the real one and let all the other ones go. And I kept trying to cut these pieces of myself away because I was listening to everyone else and I thought that that was just the price of success. But when I turned 40, I gained a different perspective. I discovered I was neurodivergent, and the diagnosis wasn't what surprised me. It was the relief that I felt for the first time. I stopped looking at the way my mind worked as something was wrong with me. And I started seeing it for what it actually was. I had a mind that naturally made connections, naturally saw patterns, that pulled together ideas from different worlds and brought them together in a different kind of way. And once I stopped trying to fix that, it all became really obvious. The problem was not that I had too many interests. The problem was that I was trying to choose between them. I was looking for the one thing when what I really needed to find was the thread. Photography taught me how to find emotion in textures, how images tell us stories that words can't. Retreats taught me how to hold space for transformation, how to create containers that feel safe enough for people to express themselves, feel seen, feel like they belong. Nervous system and subconscious work taught me why people know what they need to do, but they still can't do it, and why intelligent people who are deeply committed still keep stopping themselves. None of what I learned was wasted. None of it was a detour. I just couldn't see the thread yet. And looking back now, it looks like a path. But at the time, I just felt like I was wandering. So if you find yourself in this messy phase right now, if your own list of interests and experiences feel more like chaos than coherence, I want you to know that the thread is there. You simply haven't found the right angle to see it from yet. I see this all the time with creatives and holistic business owners who have several different interests. And someone told them pick one. So they created one account for this, another account for that. They tried to separate themselves into these neat little boxes that feel nothing like who they actually are. They water themselves down, they shrink the work, and then they wonder why it feels so hollow. Because the problem was never that they had too many interests. The problem was that nobody had helped them see the thread that goes through all of them. I worked with a practitioner recently who had years of experience and who had loads of amazing results with her clients. And yet, every time she thought about sharing her work publicly, something inside her would activate. And it wasn't because she wasn't good at what she did, but it was because she felt like people in her industry might judge her or compare themselves to her or even question her or even try to copy her. And that internal resistance, that specific fear, was actually enough to keep her quiet. So many brilliant people arrive convinced their problem is a lack of focus on one thing. It almost never is. They simply haven't recognized the thread yet. And when someone tells me that they have too many interests, my first thought is never, oh, let's get rid of some. My thought is always, tell me all of them so I can help you see the thread. One of the most common pieces of advice online is pick one thing, choose a niche, get specific, simplify your message. And on some level, I understand that advice. Clarity matters, a clear message matters. And for some people, that advice really works. But I think many people fundamentally misunderstand what clarity actually means in this case. And that misunderstanding costs multi-passionate people a lot of time. Because being told to pick one thing for a person who is multi-passionate creates grief. What you hear isn't be clearer, what you hear is be less. You already tried that, you niched down and it felt either wrong or limiting. You picked the one thing and then you watched the entire energy drain out of your work because the one thing without the rest is not actually the thing. So what is? Well, what is the threading of everything that you love together to create one offer that only you could have come up with. Because people are not buying information, not since AI. They're buying resonance. They're buying the proximity and support from someone who's walked the path they want to walk. Someone who's seeing the world in a way that resonates with them. And that's why two practitioners who have the same training, the same certifications, the same modalities are attracting completely different clients. Because mostly people are not choosing a technique, they're choosing a human being, they're choosing you. And the thread is what allows people to feel that you are your niche. And the thread is what transforms a collection of interests and experiences into a body of work that feels unmistakably yours. So much of what gets called self-improvement is quietly built on the premise that who you are right now is not quite enough. That somewhere out there is a better version of you, more focused, more confident, more consistent. And your job is to become her. But I see a problem with that because it positions growth as a process of addition, of becoming more, of acquiring the qualities you currently lack. And in doing so, it can accidentally position who you are right now as the obstacle to be overcome rather than the foundation to be expressed. Growth is not an addition of something you're lacking. Growth is an excavation, a remembrance. Sometimes the work is not becoming more, it's remembering what was there before the world told you who to be. You do not become more fully expressed by acquiring new traits. You become more fully expressed by clearing away what was covering the expression that was already there. But the thread is not always enough. People find the thread, they understand how their experiences connect, they gain clarity around the work, they can finally explain what they do in a way that makes sense to others, and yet many still hesitate to share. And it's not because they lack the clarity or the skill, it's because visibility brings us back to something deeper. It brings us back to being seen, being witnessed, the fear of being judged or misunderstood, of standing out, of taking up space. For many years, many of us have been taught to focus on the work itself, become better, get another qualification, another certification. But eventually there comes a point where the question is no longer, what else do I need to learn? But the question becomes, am I willing to let people find me? Because even the most transformational work cannot change life if nobody knows that you exist. And that brings us to the next stage of the journey. It's not understanding your work, it's sharing it and understanding why that might be one of the most generous things you can do.